The exclusive, hushed salon of Madame Dupre's tea house was filled with the rhythmic clinking of porcelain. For Lady Anna Ashton, the sound was a countdown. Her father, Lord Ashton, was days from being arrested and thrown into the notorious Marshalsea Debtor'S prison, a fate that would destroy their family name forever. Anna, draped in her finest but fading silk, was waiting to beg a distant relative when a silhouette darkened her table. She had perfected the art of social invisibility to conceal her family's ruin, but a crisp, chilling voice cut through the silence. "That one," the voice declared from somewhere behind a porcelain screen. Anna froze, recognizing the terrifying authority of the Dowager Duchess Ravenna of Northwell. Ravenna swept around the screen and sat opposite Anna without invitation. "Financial trouble, I assume. Debt, perhaps," she whispered. "You cannot afford to be particular." Ravenna wasted no time, sliding a thin, folded debtor's warrant across the linen. "That is the warrant for your father's arrest. I own him, child, and now I own you." The Duchess leaned in, her gaze relentless, delivering the impossible ultimatum, the final 7 words sealing Anna's doom. "Marry him, or your father dies in a debtor's prison." The price of her father's life was marriage to her cold, unavailable son, Duke Caspian of Northwell, a union built on blackmail and despair. Anna's hands trembled as she stared at the warrant, her father's name printed in harsh black ink. The document was real, legal, and utterly damning. Around them, the other patrons of Madame Dupre's continued their refined conversations, oblivious to the transaction of a human life happening in their midst. "You're insane," Anna whispered, though she knew the Duchess was anything but. "Your son would never agree to this." Ravenna's smile was glacial. "My son will do his duty, as he always has. The Duke of Northwell requires a wife of impeccable breeding to secure his political alliances. Your bloodline, while financially embarrassed, is ancient and respected." "The marriage will be announced as a love match, sudden but passionate." She paused, her eyes narrowing. "Unless, of course, you prefer to watch your father rot in Marshalsea. I hear the conditions there are particularly unpleasant this time of year." Anna felt the walls of the tea room closing in. She had spent weeks trying to find a solution, pawning her mother's jewelry, writing desperate letters to every connection her family possessed. Nothing had worked. The debt was too massive, the creditors too impatient, and now this woman held her father's life in her perfectly manicured hands. "I want proof," Anna said, forcing steel into her voice. "Proof that my father will be safe before I agree to anything." Ravenna's expression flickered with something that might have been respect. She withdrew another document from her reticule. "Your father has been granted temporary bail under my personal guarantee. The moment you say I do, the debt transfers to the Northwell estate and is immediately settled. Your father walks free. Your family name remains intact, and you become a duchess." She leaned forward. "Refuse, and the bailiffs arrive at your home tomorrow morning. I suggest you prepare yourself, Lady Anna. The Duke does not suffer fools, and he certainly doesn't appreciate being manipulated into marriage, even by his own mother." With that chilling warning, the Dowager Duchess swept from the tea room, leaving Anna alone with the weight of her new reality. The Northwell London residence was a fortress of gray stone and darker reputation. Anna was escorted through marble hallways that echoed with her uncertain footsteps, each one taking her further from the life she'd known.
The butler, a stern man named Graves, showed her into a study lined with books and heavy with the scent of leather and tobacco. Duke Caspian of Northwell stood with his back to her, staring out a window that overlooked a manicured garden. He was tall, his shoulders rigid beneath a perfectly tailored coat. When he finally turned, Anna understood immediately why society whispered about the cold Duke. His face was aristocratically handsome, but utterly devoid of warmth, his gray eyes assessing her with the emotion one might reserve for evaluating livestock. "So you're the solution to my mother's meddling," he said, his voice clipped and precise. "Lady Anna Ashton, the debt-ridden aristocrat willing to sell herself for her father's freedom." The cruelty of his words stung, but Anna refused to flinch. "And you're the Duke too important to find his own wife, requiring his mother to blackmail one for him." Something flickered in those cold eyes, surprise, perhaps, or the shadow of amusement. "I see you have spirit. That may serve you well in what's to come." He moved to his desk, retrieving a document. "Sit. We have terms to discuss." Anna remained standing. "I didn't agree to terms. Your mother gave me an ultimatum." "And yet, here you are." Caspian gestured again to the chair. "Sit, Lady Anna. If we're to be shackled together by my mother's machinations, we might as well establish the rules of our prison." Reluctantly, Anna sat. Caspian placed the document before her, a marriage contract, detailed and damning in its coldness.
"This is a political arrangement, nothing more," he began, his finger tracing the clauses. "In public, you will act as a devoted wife. You will attend social functions at my side, manage the household, and present an image of marital harmony. In private, you will have your own quarters. I will have mine. We will interact only when necessary for appearances." "How romantic," Anna said bitterly. "If you can't stand people who use others' desperation to control their lives, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Type, "Nobody deserves that," because what happened next only got worse. "Romance is a luxury neither of us can afford," Caspian replied, unmoved. "I need a scandal-free marriage to secure my position in Parliament and protect my family's political interests. You need your father's debts erased and your family name salvaged. This is a transaction, Lady Anna. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for both of us." Anna read through the contract, each word a small death of her dreams. There were clauses about her allowance, her responsibilities, even specifications about which social events required her presence. It read like a business merger, which she supposed it was. "What if I refuse?" Anna asked quietly. "Then my mother's offer is rescinded, the warrant is executed, and your father spends what remains of his life in debtor's prison, while your family name becomes synonymous with ruin." Caspian's expression didn't change. "But you won't refuse, will you? Because despite your pride and your anger, you love your father too much to let him suffer." He was right, and they both knew it. Anna picked up the pen he offered, her hand steady despite the turmoil in her heart. She signed her name, watching the ink dry on her future. "The wedding is in 2 days," Caspian said, taking the contract. "Graves will show you to your rooms. A seamstress will arrive this evening for your dress. I suggest you rest. Being the Duchess of Northwell is exhausting, even when it's a performance." The wedding was a cold, efficient affair held in the private chapel of the Northwell estate. Anna wore an elegant gown of ivory silk that cost more than her family's remaining possessions, and she spoke vows that tasted like ash in her mouth. Caspian placed a ring on her finger with the same emotion one might display when signing a ledger. When the vicar pronounced them husband and wife, the kiss Caspian gave her was brief and perfunctory, a checkmark on a list of obligations. The wedding breakfast was attended by only the most necessary witnesses, Dowager Duchess Ravenna, who watched with satisfied eyes, a handful of Caspian's political allies, and notably Anna's father, who wept with relief and shame in equal measure. Lord Ashton embraced his daughter afterward, whispering apologies she couldn't bear to hear. He didn't know the full truth of how her freedom had been purchased, and Anna intended to keep it that way. By evening, Anna found herself installed in the Duchess's quarters of the main Northwell estate, a sprawling ancestral manor in the countryside. Her rooms were beautiful, decorated in shades of rose and gold, with windows overlooking gardens that stretched to a distant forest. It should have felt like a fairy tale. Instead, it felt like a prison with prettier bars. A knock at her door revealed not her new husband, but Ravenna, who entered without waiting for permission.
"You performed adequately today," the Dowager Duchess said, circling the room like a predator inspecting territory. "But understand this, child. Your father's freedom is not a gift. It is a loan, one that can be recalled if you fail to uphold your end of this bargain." Anna's blood ran cold. "The debt was settled. You gave your word." "The debt to the creditors was settled, yes, but I retained certain legal instruments that could prove embarrassing to your family should you prove unsuitable as Duchess." Ravenna's smile was sharp. "All I require is your obedience and your performance. Play the role of devoted wife, support my son's political ambitions, and never, ever reveal the true nature of this marriage. Do that, and your father remains free. Fail, and I will ensure he faces consequences that make debtor's prison seem merciful." After Ravenna left, Anna sank onto the bed, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of her situation. She wasn't just trapped in a loveless marriage, she was a permanent hostage, her father's safety contingent on her perfect performance as the Duke's wife. One misstep, one revealed truth, and everything would collapse.
3 weeks into her marriage, Anna attended her first major social event as the Duchess of Northwell, a ball hosted by Lord and Lady Pemberton, attended by everyone who mattered in London society. Anna wore a gown of midnight blue that Ravenna had selected, and she stood at Caspian's side as they entered the ballroom, feeling the weight of every eye upon her. The whispers started immediately. "No dowry at all, I heard? Married in such haste, there must be a scandal. The Ashtons were practically destitute. Poor Duke, trapped by his mother's schemes." Anna kept her expression serene, though each comment was a blade. Caspian, to his credit, maintained his cold composure, his hand resting lightly on her back as they navigated the crowd. When Lady Pemberton herself made a pointed comment about Anna's fortuitous match, Anna felt Caspian's hand press more firmly against her spine. "My wife," Caspian said, his voice carrying just enough to be heard by nearby guests, "was chosen for her character, intelligence, and grace, qualities that apparently grow scarcer in society with each passing season. Any questions about her suitability reflect poorly not on her, but on those who raise them." The rebuke was subtle but unmistakable. Lady Pemberton flushed and changed the subject. As they moved away, Anna glanced at Caspian in surprise. He met her eyes briefly, his expression unreadable. Later, when they found themselves momentarily alone in a quiet corridor, Anna spoke.
You didn't have to defend me. I defended my choice of wife, which reflects on me, Lady Anna. Don't mistake pragmatism for chivalry. But something in his tone suggested the line between the two wasn't as clear as he pretended.
Over the following days, Sylvia observed Lucian's organization with clinical detachment that gradually eroded into reluctant understanding. She witnessed his fierce loyalty to his people, the university tuition he paid for his guards' children, the anonymous donations to community clinics. Dante revealed, almost casually, that Lucian had funded the entire trauma wing renovation at Sylvia's urgent care facility 2 years ago. "Why?" she confronted him one evening as she changed his dressings. "Because good trauma care saves lives, and despite what you think of me, I prefer fewer deaths, not more." He winced as she probed the healing tissue. "Most of my business is legitimate: shipping, import, real estate. The criminal elements exist as protection, as leverage in a world where law is often inadequate." "That's rationalization," Sylvia countered. "Perhaps, but show me someone who operates in absolute moral clarity, and I'll show you someone who's never faced impossible choices." Lucian caught her wrist gently. "You saved my life knowing I was dangerous. You brought me to your home, risking everything. Why?" Sylvia pulled away, unsettled. "Because I'm a nurse. It's what I do." "No, you're someone who sees broken things and needs to fix them. We're not that different, Sylvia. We just use different tools." As spring turned to summer, Anna settled into the strange rhythm of her new life. She managed the household with efficiency that surprised the staff, hosted dinners for Caspian's political associates, and learned to navigate the complex social hierarchies of aristocratic life. Caspian, for his part, maintained his emotional distance but proved less cold than she'd initially believed. He was simply reserved, burdened by responsibilities he rarely discussed. One evening, Anna was reviewing the household accounts in her sitting room when she noticed a discrepancy. Several large payments had been made to individuals she didn't recognize, all authorized under Caspian's seal, but in a hand that wasn't his. The amounts were significant enough to raise questions, but small enough to potentially escape notice. Anna spent the next 3 days quietly investigating. She cross-referenced the names with property records and business registries, discovering that several were connected to Lord Alistair Brentwood, a political rival of Caspian's, who had been vocal in his opposition to several bills the Duke supported in Parliament. The pieces came together with chilling clarity. Someone in the household was embezzling funds and channeling them to Caspian's enemy, likely for information or political advantage. It was sabotage, deliberate and dangerous. Anna debated what to do. According to their contract, she was to manage the household, but not interfere in Caspian's political affairs. Yet this was both, and the betrayal was happening under her watch. More troubling was the realization that if the embezzlement was discovered without explanation, it could damage Caspian's reputation and, by extension, her own position. She found Caspian in his study late one evening, reviewing documents by lamplight. He looked up as she entered, surprise crossing his features. "Lady Anna, it's late. I need to show you something." Anna placed the ledgers on his desk, her heart pounding. "I found irregularities in the household accounts. Someone is stealing from the estate and channeling money to Lord Brentwood." Caspian's expression shifted from surprise to intense focus as he examined the evidence. He asked sharp questions, which Anna answered with the details of her investigation. When he finished, he sat back,
regarding her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Why bring this to me?" he asked. "Our agreement specified that you would manage the household, nothing more. You could have quietly corrected the accounting and said nothing." Anna met his gaze steadily. "Because this isn't just about the household. Someone is actively working against you, and they're doing it from inside your own home. You deserve to know. Even though warning me violates the spirit of our contract, that this marriage is merely transactional." Anna hesitated, then decided honesty was her only option. "I didn't marry you for love, Your Grace. You know that. But I'm not your enemy, and I won't stand by while someone sabotages you." She paused. "Whatever our arrangement, you've treated me with more respect than I had any right to expect. You defended my honor when you didn't have to. The least I can do is show you the same loyalty." Something in Caspian's expression softened, the ice cracking just slightly. "You are full of surprises, Duchess." "Don't call me that," Anna said automatically. "I don't feel like a real duchess." "Perhaps not yet, but you're proving yourself more capable than most who were born to the title." He stood, moving around the desk. "Thank you, Anna. Truly. This information may well have saved more than just the estate's finances." It was the first time he'd called her by her given name, and something in Anna's chest tightened at the sound of it.
Caspian's investigation revealed that the embezzler was his personal secretary, a man who had served the family for 15 years. The betrayal cut deep, and the secretary's arrest sent ripples through both the household and London society. Lord Brentwood, implicated by the evidence, publicly denied any wrongdoing, but was forced to withdraw from several key political battles, giving Caspian a significant advantage in Parliament. The victory, however, came with a cost. Brentwood, humiliated and vengeful, began spreading rumors about the Duke's sudden marriage. Desperation, he suggested to anyone who would listen. Why else would Northwell marry so hastily, with so little investigation into the bride's family circumstances? Ravenna summoned both Anna and Caspian to address the growing scandal. "The rumors must be silenced," she declared. "The two of you have maintained a public distance that's feeding speculation. It's time to demonstrate that this marriage is genuine." "How do you suggest we do that?" Caspian asked, his tone dry. "Stage a public declaration of love?" "Not far from it," Ravenna replied. "The Duchess of Marlborough is hosting her annual summer ball next week. You will attend together, and you will appear besotted with each other. Dance together, laugh together, show society that you are truly in love, not merely bound by convenience." Anna felt panic rising. "Your Grace, I don't think—" "It's not a request," Ravenna interrupted coldly. "Your performance has been adequate thus far, but adequate is no longer sufficient. Lord Brentwood is dangerous, and he's searching for any weakness to exploit. You will convince society that this marriage is a love match, or you will both face the consequences." The threat hung in the air, unspoken but clear. The night of the Marlborough ball arrived too quickly. Anna wore a gown of deep emerald that made her eyes luminous, her hair styled in an elaborate arrangement that had taken her maid 2 hours to perfect. When she descended the stairs to where Caspian waited, she saw something flicker in his eyes, appreciation perhaps, or surprise. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. "Thank you," Anna replied, her voice catching slightly. "You clean up rather well yourself."
In the carriage, they discussed their strategy. "We need to be convincing," Caspian said. "That means physical proximity, shared glances, the appearance of intimacy." "I understand the requirements," Anna said, though her heart raced at the thought. The ball was a glittering affair, and Anna felt the weight of scrutiny the moment they entered.
But Caspian was true to his word. He kept her close, his hand at the small of her back, leaning in to whisper comments that made her laugh despite her nervousness. When the dancing began, he led her onto the floor for the opening waltz. "Relax," he murmured as they moved through the steps. "You're stiff as a board." "I'm nervous," Anna admitted. "Everyone is watching us." "Then let's give them something worth watching." Caspian pulled her slightly closer, well within the bounds of propriety, but intimate enough to be notable. "Follow my lead." Anna let herself melt into the rhythm of the dance, matching Caspian's movements with surprising ease. He was an excellent dancer, confident and graceful, and for a moment she could almost forget this was a performance. When he smiled at something she said, a genuine smile that transformed his face, Anna felt her breath catch. "That's better," Caspian said softly. "You almost look like you enjoy my company." "Perhaps I do," Anna replied before she could stop herself, "when you're not being insufferably cold." "Touché." His eyes held hers as they spun across the floor, and Anna felt the space between performance and reality beginning to blur. Later, when they retreated to a balcony for air, they found themselves alone in the moonlight. The sounds of the ball filtered through the open doors, but here, in this moment, they were separate from the watching eyes and whispered judgments. "You're good at this," Anna said. "The performance." "So are you." Caspian looked out over the gardens, "though I find myself wondering how much is performance and how much is what?" He turned to Anna, his expression unusually vulnerable. "Real." Before Anna could respond, before she could even process what was happening, Caspian closed the distance between them and kissed her. It wasn't the perfunctory kiss of their wedding, but something deeper, more genuine. Anna's hands came up to his chest, and for a breathless moment she kissed him back, feeling the world tilt on its axis. When they broke apart, both were breathing heavily. Caspian stepped back, running his hair through his hair. "I apologize," he said. "That was inappropriate." "Was it part of the performance?" Anna asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know anymore," Caspian admitted, and the honesty in his voice made Anna's heart ache.
The kiss changed everything and nothing. In public, they continued their performance, but now there was an undercurrent of genuine emotion that made each touch, each glance feel weighted with meaning. Privately, they circled each other warily, neither willing to acknowledge what was growing between them, until Lord Brentwood forced their hand. 3 weeks after the ball, Caspian received a letter. Anna found him in his study, his face pale with anger and something that looked like betrayal. Without a word, he handed her the letter. Anna read it with growing horror. Brentwood had discovered the truth, not just that Anna's father had been in debt, but the full extent of Ravenna's blackmail. He had copies of the debtor's warrant, testimonies from the bailiffs, even records of the payments that had secured Lord Ashton's temporary release. The letter was clear. Unless Caspian withdrew his support for the factory reform bill in Parliament, Brentwood would make everything public, destroying both Caspian's political career and Anna's reputation. "How did he find out?" Anna whispered, though she already knew the answer. Ravenna's machinations had left a paper trail, and Brentwood had been thorough in his revenge. "The real question is why you never told me the full truth," Caspian said, his voice dangerously quiet. Anna felt her world crumbling. "Your mother, she said if I ever revealed the circumstances, if I ever broke the contract, she would—" "What, imprison your father again?" Caspian laughed bitterly. "My mother has manipulated us both, Anna. She orchestrated this entire situation to trap us both into a marriage neither of us wanted, using your father as leverage to ensure your compliance." "I know," Anna said, tears streaming down her face. "I've known from the beginning, but what choice did I have?" "You could have trusted me." Caspian's composure finally cracked. "These past months, I thought—" He stopped, collecting himself. "I thought we were building something real. But it was all just you protecting your father, wasn't it? Performing your role so Ravenna wouldn't pull the strings." "That's not fair," Anna protested. "Yes, I was protecting my father, but everything else, what's grown between us, that's been real. You must know that."
"I don't know what to believe anymore." Caspian turned away from her. "Brentwood wants an answer in 3 days. I can either sacrifice the bill I've spent years fighting for, or I can let him destroy both our reputations. Either way, this marriage has become exactly what I always feared, a political liability." Anna felt something break inside her. "Then annul it. I'll give you grounds. Tell society I deceived you about my family's circumstances, that the marriage was fraudulent from the start. Blame me for everything, and you can emerge with your reputation intact." Caspian spun to face her. "Is that what you think? That I would throw you to the wolves to save myself?" "It was," Caspian said quietly. "God help me, it was, but it isn't anymore. Somewhere between the library conversations and the dancing and the moments when you made me laugh despite myself, this became real." He crossed the room, taking her hands in his. "I'm in love with you, Anna. I don't know when it happened, but it did. And I'll be damned if I let my mother's schemes or Brentwood's blackmail destroy what we've built." Anna stared at him, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we fight, together." Caspian's grip tightened. "No more secrets, no more performances. We tell the truth, all of it. Yes, your father was in debt. Yes, my mother engineered this marriage. But somewhere in the middle of her manipulation, we found something genuine, and that's worth fighting for."
2 days later, Caspian called a meeting in the grand drawing room of Northwell House. Present were Ravenna, Lord Brentwood, who had been pointedly invited, several key members of Parliament, and representatives from 3 major London newspapers. Anna stood at Caspian's side, her heart pounding, but her head held high. "I've summoned you here to address certain rumors that have been circulating regarding my marriage," Caspian began, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "Rather than allow speculation to poison public discourse, I will provide the truth myself." Ravenna's face had gone white. "Caspian, what are you doing?" "What I should have done months ago, taking control of my own life." He turned to the assembled group. "It's true that my wife's family faced financial difficulties. Lord Ashton had accumulated significant gambling debts that threatened to land him in debtor's prison. My mother, believing she was acting in the family's best interest, offered to settle those debts in exchange for Lady Anna's agreement to marry me." Murmurs rippled through the room. Brentwood smiled smugly, clearly believing he'd won. "However," Caspian continued, his voice hardening, "what my mother's machinations actually accomplished was introducing me to a woman of remarkable intelligence, courage, and integrity. A woman who, despite being trapped in an impossible situation, has proven herself more than worthy of the title Duchess of Northwell." He took Anna's hand, facing the room together. "Yes, our marriage began as a transaction, but it has become far more than that. Lady Anna has shown me what true partnership means. She has managed my household with brilliance, supported my political endeavors, and yes, even saved me from sabotage within my own staff.
She has earned her place at my side not through her family's name or fortune, but through her own merit." Anna felt tears pricking her eyes, but she blinked them back, keeping her composure.
"As for Lord Brentwood," Caspian said, turning his attention to his rival, "I understand you believed this information would provide leverage over me. You are mistaken. I will not withdraw my support for the factory reform bill. I will not be blackmailed into abandoning my principles. Instead, I'll let society judge who is the more honorable man, one who helps a family in distress and finds love in the process, or one who attempts to profit from that family's suffering through political extortion." Brentwood's face flushed with anger. "You can't prove—" "I can prove everything," Caspian interrupted coldly. "My wife discovered evidence of your attempts to embezzle from my estate and sabotage my political work. We have testimony, financial records, and correspondence. You're welcome to make our marriage the scandal you intended, but be aware that I will ensure your own corruption receives equal scrutiny from the press." The threat was clear. Brentwood looked around the room, seeing no allies, only judgment. He stood abruptly. "This isn't over, Northwell." "Yes, it is." After Brentwood stormed out, Ravenna stood, her face a mask of controlled fury. "You've destroyed everything I built." "No, Mother. I freed us both from a prison of your making." Caspian's voice softened slightly. "I understand you believed you were protecting the family, but your methods hurt people I care about, including Anna. That ends now." Ravenna looked between her son and Anna, something complicated crossing her features. Finally, she nodded stiffly. "Very well. The girl has proven herself more resilient than I anticipated." She turned to Anna directly. "I release your father from any further obligation. The debt is settled permanently. And for what it's worth," she paused, the admission clearly difficult, "you've been a better Duchess than I expected. Northwell is fortunate to have you." It wasn't an apology, but coming from Ravenna, it was close enough. The scandal that followed was manageable, precisely because Caspian had controlled the narrative. Rather than being seen as a victim of deception, he was viewed as a romantic figure, a duke who had rescued a lady in distress and found true love in the process. Anna, rather than being pitied or scorned, was admired for her strength and capability. The factory reform bill passed with strong support, partly because Caspian's honesty about his own life had humanized the struggles of ordinary families facing debt. 3 months later, Anna stood in the garden of Northwell Estate, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to find Caspian approaching, his jacket discarded and his sleeves rolled up. He'd been working in the estate office all afternoon, but looked relaxed in a way he never had in their early days together. "Your father sent a letter," he said, joining her on the bench. "He's settled in his new cottage and says the country air agrees with him. He's even talking about taking up painting." Anna smiled. "He sounds happy, actually happy, not just pretending." "Rather like his daughter." Caspian brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You've been smiling more." "I have more to smile about. No more secrets, no more performances. Just us." "Just us," Caspian agreed, pulling her closer. "Though I should warn you, Lady Anna, being genuinely married to me may prove more challenging than our contracted arrangement." "Oh, how so?" "Well, for one thing, I have no intention of maintaining separate quarters. For another, I plan to be insufferably affectionate in both public and private." He kissed her temple. and I'm told I can be quite demanding when it comes to spending time with people I love." "I think I can manage," Anna said, laughing, "though I should know, Your Grace, that I intend to be equally demanding, and I'm far more stubborn than you initially realized." "I'm counting on it." Caspian's expression turned serious. "I mean it, Anna. I love you. Not because of any contract or obligation, but because of who you are. You saved me as much as I saved you." "We saved each other," Anna corrected. She thought about the terrified woman who had sat in that tea room, believing her life was over.
She had been wrong. Her life had been beginning, though she couldn't have known it at the time. From blackmail to true love, it's rather an unlikely story. The best stories usually are. Caspian drew her to her feet, pulling her into a proper embrace. "Now, shall we go inside? I believe dinner will be ready soon, and I promised Cook we'd actually attend tonight instead of getting distracted in the library." "Again?" Anna asked, laughing. "Again," Caspian grinned, and Anna marveled at how that smile transformed his face, banishing the last traces of the cold Duke she'd first met. "Though in my defense, you're very distracting when you're reading poetry." As they walked back to the house together, hands intertwined, Anna felt the final weight of fear and obligation lift from her shoulders. The warrant that had once threatened her father's freedom was long since destroyed. The contract that defined their marriage was voided, replaced by genuine vows they'd taken privately in the estate chapel, speaking words they actually meant. If you watched or listened up to this point, comment the country you were watching this from. Represent your country. She was no longer Lady Anna Ashton, the desperate daughter. She was the Duchess of Northwell, partner to a man she genuinely loved, and she had earned that title through her own courage and strength. The price of her freedom was high, a forced marriage born of blackmail and despair, but somehow, impossibly, that price had bought her not just survival, but genuine happiness. As they entered the house, Caspian paused to kiss her once more, tender and unhurried. Anna kissed him back, thinking about how strange it was that what began as the worst day of her life, that terrible afternoon at Madame Dupre's tea room, had led her here, to this moment of perfect contentment. "What are you thinking about?" Caspian asked softly. "That your mother's blackmail might have been the best thing that ever happened to me," Anna admitted, though I'd never tell her that. Caspian laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Our secret, then, just one of many we'll keep together." "Together," Anna echoed, and in that word was every promise they'd never spoken aloud, every vow that mattered more than the ones forced from her lips months ago. Together, they had transformed a prison into a partnership, a transaction into true love. And in the end, that transformation was worth more than all the debts her father had ever owed, more than all the titles and estates in England. It was priceless, hard-won, and entirely, wonderfully real.